Yo, Jamie from Jamie's Detailing, and lately I've been getting a ton of questions on my whole entire water tank and pressure washing setup. So today we're going to be going over an entire overview of all the different components that kind of go into my pressure washing, water tank, all my whole setup inside of my detailing rig. But before you guys click away, I think you guys who are detailing in your driveways or at home or even in a more professional garage. If you guys are looking for more information on just some basic pressure washing and pressure washing setup for detailing, I think that you guys are going to get a ton from this video. So first, I want to do a whole overview of my setup and all the different components and everything that I have in here, and I'm going to link to all of these different, products and stuff in the description down below. So make sure you check out that if you guys have any questions on the individual particular items that I bought, but I'm going to be going over everything kind of briefly, and then I'm going to be talking about some of the problems and issues that I've had with this exact setup and things that I've done to kind of get around those issues or make my system better and all of that kind of stuff. So first, let's go ahead and jump straight into the entire overview of my detailing rig setup. Alright, guys. Now, this is my actual pressure washing setup. You guys can see I have a reel here in the back, and pretty much everything else is hidden back behind this little partition. So first, let's go over the business end of this, the stuff that you can see, and starting off, I guess, with the power. So starting off, how do I get power to my vehicle? Now, guys, I've always used house power or whatever you would want to call it. I always just use my client's power. So I plug in right here to the side of the vehicle and I'm ready to go. Now this allows me to power whatever I need to power, whether that's my pressure washer or my air, so I can turn on whatever I need to turn on. So it makes it super nice. And oh, it looks like we need to fill our water tank. I totally forgot about that, but we're going to have to fill our water tank before we can actually use it. But I power on and off my pressure washer actually with the this remote right here that is connected to some different little remote operated power switches. I'll leave a link to all these different components down in the description down below. So if you guys have any questions on any of the different items or any of the different pieces of equipment in here, I will definitely leave links to all of this stuff down below, and I'll try to list it in the order that I'm mentioning this stuff in. So anyways, guys, now that we talked really quickly about the power and how we provide power to the system, let's talk about the actual different components that kind of make up the whole pressure washer business end of the pressure washing system. So first off, guys, I just use a nice little, the SGS 28. This is the MTM Hydro gun. It's a really nice gun. There's other nice guns out there on the market, but this is the one that I chose to go with, and I use a lot of the MTM Hydro stuff, including the extension wand from MTM Hydro, and I use the 3.5 millimeter tips, and I definitely have more information on this at the end of this video, so make sure you guys stick around for after this quick overview of the whole system so you guys can hear about some of the issues and problems and things that you're going to need gonna want to do to your pressure washing setup to get it to work better for detailing. So anyways, guys, I use the 3.5 millimeter tips from MTM Hydro, along with just some cheap generic tips that I bought on Amazon. So I'll make sure I leave links to all of this stuff down below, but I use the 3.5 millimeter tips, and that actually reduces the pressure coming out of the pressure washer, and it's probably well under 1,000 psi. This is literally soft enough that I can touch it when the water's actually coming out. So I'll show you guys that at the end when we're done with this overview. But moving on from the actual head of the wand of the pressure washer here, we have our pressure washer hose. This is just a decent Amazon hose. It was cheap, it was inexpensive, and it's lasted now for over 2 years. So I would consider that a win for like a $40 pressure washing hose. Now, this pressure washing hose is actually attached here on this this pressure washing hose is actually attached here to a central pneumatic air hose reel. This is an air hose reel that I actually just did a little DIY conversion like a lot of other detailers do. And this is just a budget way to get a cheap pressure washer reel. Pressure washer reels kind of start at around $160 to $200, and this one right here is about 80 bucks. And you guys can also, you know, just convert it to work as a pressure washer reel, which is what I did. And then I have two matching reels here. So I have one for the air hose reel and one for the pressure washer. That way they both matched and all that kind of stuff. That was my thought around it. Now, if I had to do this over again, I would just get a 100-foot pressure washer reel, probably with the hose already attached and everything, and just leave it at that. But we're going to get to some of the issues that I've had with this system at the end of this video, like I said, so just hang around for that. But overall, guys, the Central Pneumatic pressure washer reel has been a great reel. I do have a few notes on that, but anyways, overall, I love this setup so far, and yeah, I definitely like it, and it's worked for the past 2 years, so I can't really complain that much. Anyways, guys, as far as pressure washing tips that I have in the vehicle, I do have this turbo nozzle right here, which I do not use turbo nozzles anymore with this reel setup, and that's a huge part of what we're going to get into at the end of this video. But along with the turbo nozzle, which I don't use and I probably should just take out of here, I also have all my 3.5 millimeter tips, just the general tips that I use here in the vehicle. I think I have a 40 degree, a 25 degree, a 15 degree, and yeah, those are the tips that I like. My MTM Hydro is that 25 degree tip. This is my favorite one, which is why I got it in the MTM Hydro with the little bumper protector on there. But you totally don't need these bumper protectors. They're kind of just, you know, gimmicky more than anything. I don't think you're gonna... You'd have to be pretty careless to just smash that thing into your paint, guys, and you would really have to be close to the car. You really should never be that close with your pressure washer in the first place, so it's not a necessity to have those guards on your pressure washing tips, but they do look cool, and yeah, so I like having them. But anyways, guys, that is the actual pressure washer reel setup that I have going on here. Along with that, coming out the back here, I actually have a little fill nozzle. So this is just where I can fill up buckets and all that kind of stuff is right here. I can also fill my tank from right here. So that's super nice and super convenient to have. But that's pretty much everything as far as the water setup and the power, how I provide power to the pressure washer. But now let's actually go and see the working end, or where all the equipment is, and the water tank inside of this vehicle. Popping open our side door here, this is where I actually have our water tank, our pressure washer, and I have a second in and out point just like in the back. I have another in and out point here, and this also allows you guys to fill the vehicle and to to, you know, fill up buckets or whatever else you guys want to do over here on this end. And attached to it right now is this little adapter, which we'll go over in just a second. But this end, just like the other end, guys, you can get your water in and out right here, and all of that type of stuff. And I have a special little manifold that I built that actually kind of controls all of this and makes it all work together really, really nicely. And it's a little different than what most people have. But before we get to that, this is the adapter that I made. So this right here is the adapter that I use to actually fill up the vehicle. So you're gonna stick your standard hose fitting, goes right, your male hose fitting typically goes on this end, and this end right here has a quick connect that works with the front and the back. So over here, guys, I just connect this right there, and it allows me to actually fill up my water tank. And this thing's actually empty anyways, guys, so let's go ahead and grab our hose real quick, and I'll just show you guys how long it takes to fill up. It really only takes a couple minutes. Alright, so here I have my hose connected, and this is our adapter. Now, the biggest reason that I made this adapter was, one, because I wanted to use a quick connect. I could put the quick connect directly onto the hose, but I like to use these fully open quick connects. Now, the quick connect will always allow water to flow in and out. Some of them have a stopper in there, and I hate the ones that have that stopper in it. So I always make sure to order the ones without the stopper in there, and I use my own on-off shut-off valve right here. That way I can actually control when the water is coming in and out of the hose, and that stopper doesn't need to have the male end of the quick connect on in order to get the water out. And it also will restrict a little bit of your flow having the stoppers in there. So make sure you get the quick connects with no stopper. If you are getting your quick connects at places like Lowe's and Ace Hardware, Home Depot, most of those all have the stoppers in them. So you guys check my links. I'm going to leave the link to the one that has no stopper in it. But anyways, guys, the reason I use this, again, is so that I can have control over this hose. I could use it independently, all of that kind of stuff, and I don't have to run all the way over to the spigot to actually turn the water on and off to fill up the car. So anyways, guys, this is how I actually do it. I just plug it in here, turn on the hose, and then I turn on the other little stop right there, or valve, and now my tank is actually filling. So while that thing's filling, this would probably be a great time to actually talk to you guys about the tank and the manifold setup. So I'm going to film this part just on my phone real quick. I know it's a little unorthodox, but it'll give you guys a much better view than that camera in this tight little spot. So anyways, guys, coming down here, this is my manifold right here. And you guys can see right now we're filling our water tank with that hose. So this hose actually comes into here, into a T. And this is something that I actually added later on because I really just found that there is a huge need to have 2 in and out points on a system like this. That way, not only can I be filling the system, but at the same time that I'm filling my system, I could come over here and I could actually fill a bucket or whatever I would need to do. And I also have the pressure from the home faucet coming out of here, which is super, super important to use stuff like my extractor and stuff like that. So I actually have another adapter that I use with my extractor on the end of this, so that I can plug my extractor directly into this whole system. So coming back over to this manifold, guys, I just made this manifold, this DIY from scratch, but I have seen similar things to this with, like, you know, 2 in and out points, some extra tee-offs type stuff on Amazon. But I'm not a plumber or anything like that, and I came across most of that stuff after I already had this setup pretty much already installed and how I needed it. So as I've needed different things, I've actually added them on as I've needed them. So this was an add-on, this T right here. This is something that I added on later, as well as this shutoff valve, which you guys can see right now. The tank is off. It is not filling, and it does not have a way to actually, for this water inside of the tank to get into the pressure washer. So the only thing feeding the pressure washer right now is actually the direct feed from the hose. So this is just going straight in right now, and it's just teeing and going straight into the pressure washer. So I can actually fill my tank. So right now I'm filling my tank, and I can use my pressure washer at the same time. And this hose right here is the one that goes to the back of the vehicle, which allows me to fill a bucket at the same time. So I can use, technically, I could use my pressure washer, I can fill my tank, and I could fill a bucket all at the exact same time if needed. So as you guys can see, we got plenty of pressure to do everything that we would need to do. Which is, so that's the biggest reason that I built this manifold with 2 in and out points, 2 extra in and out points, as well as the feed that goes directly to the pressure washer and the feed that goes into the tank. This is basically an in and out for the tank, but I also have a shut off here that allows me to shut off the tank but still remain getting pressure from the house inside of this pressure washing line. So if I'm at a house or at a home and I don't want to use my tank water for whatever reason, or I just wanted to use the pressure from the house, I have the ability to do that. And if I am at a house and I don't want to connect to water, so if I have this, you know, turned off, let's go ahead and turn this off. And then we will open this valve just so I can get the pressure out of the line, and then we'll go ahead and turn this back off, and then we just pop that off like normal, put that back in the vehicle like so. Now we have our tank semi-filled up. It's not quite all the way filled up, but plenty for you guys to get this quick example. And we have our line currently open on the tank. So from here, I can go to the back of the vehicle and make sure our tip is pressed all the way in. But now, well, you might want to turn it on. I got a lot of air in the system when But now, guys, now we actually have our pressure going, or now we actually are gravity feeding from the tank directly to our pressure washer. But we can also turn that line off. So here we go. We're just going to shut the tank off. And now we would technically be running our pressure washer tank dry, right? We will only get a second of water out of here just to clear the line, because there's no pressure in there. So same thing with our pressure washer. We have no water now in the system. But even though we have no water, so technically if our tank was empty, or for whatever reason we didn't want to use our tank water, or it's just more convenient to use the house water, now we can just have this going like so. Now we got our actual water pressurizing our lines here, and now we can actually just use our pressure washer. Now we can just use our pressure washer using the direct feed from the house coming straight into our pressure washer. So super versatile having that, this guy right here. This is kind of the key to the whole system, is this little manifold system that I built. and that allows you to have multiple ways of getting water in, multiple ways of feeding your pressure washer, and yeah, it's super nice. You can fill your buckets, you could do all the things at once, but having two lines like this, instead of most people I just see with one, having two lines is really going to make this whole system way more versatile. So that's how I actually get all the water moved around to all the different places that I actually need inside of the vehicle. But really quickly, guys, I am using a 33-gallon tank. This is a pretty big tank, and I know I put in other videos how much it weighs, but when this thing is full, this vehicle definitely dips down a little bit, and we'll get to that at the end of this video. But on the top of my tank, I have a nice little relief hose right here. This is in case I was to overfill this tank. It has a way for all the excess water to go to get out of the tank, and this actually just dumps underneath the vehicle right here. So all the extra water just dumps right there. If I'm inside of a garage with my vehicle or something like that, I can actually just hook my hose up directly to this outlet, and I can actually, direct the water wherever I want it, whether that's outside of the garage, or maybe I want to, fill up a tank or something. Whatever I want to do, I can hook a hose actually to the bottom of the vehicle. That way I'm not dumping a whole bunch of water inside my garage, which I don't have a drain in. That is pretty much this whole tank setup with the manifold. I have, as far as the pressure washer that I'm using, guys, I'm just using the cheapest Ryobi pressure washer. I believe it's like the 16 or 1800 psi and 1.2 gallons per minute, which I do like the lower gallons per minute. It really helps me conserve water and really put the water where I want it, especially since I'm working with a limited size water tank and I don't always have access to client's water. Typically I do, but usually it's more convenient to just use the water out of the tank, which is why I got the whole tank set up to begin with. But that's pretty much my whole setup, guys. So as far as the pressure washer reel, the pressure washer I'm using, the tank that I'm using, and how I'm getting all my water from one place to another, this is how I have it set up. But I definitely have some complaints about this, so let's go ahead and talk real quickly about just some things that I would do a little bit different if I was you guys, and some things you guys are gonna want to be aware of when it comes to pressure washing and all of that type of stuff. So let's get into it real quick. Now, I just showed you guys my entire pressure washing setup, from the reel that I'm using to the tank that I'm using, how I have everything connected. But there's definitely a few things that I want you guys to be aware of if you guys are looking to have similar components in your guys' home garage or in your guys' detailing rig. So first, I want to actually start off with the pressure washer reel itself. And really quickly, guys, would I recommend an air hose conversion for a pressure washer reel? And I guess the short answer is yes. I would definitely recommend this. This is awesome setup to have, but it needs to be set up in the correct way. If you guys aren't using the 3.5 millimeter orifice tips, then you guys are going to have a lot of bad luck with your guys' air hose reel conversions. These things are really just not meant for these high PSIs that your pressure washer does. Your pressure washer could be upwards of, let's just say a cheap one, you're going to be upwards of a 16 to 1800 PSI. And these things are actually really only rated for 200 PSI. At least that's what they say on the box. I don't know what the fittings are legitly rated to, guys, and I'm sure it's higher than 200 PSI, but I ended up using those 3.5 millimeter tips, and that drastically lowers the PSI of your pressure washer, making it more safe to actually clean your guys' vehicles, and it allows you guys to use these air hose reel conversions, and you guys aren't going to be blowing the seals on them from running 1800 PSI through them. Now, I told you guys earlier that I'm not using this turbo nozzle. Now, when I very first started detailing, I was using turbo nozzles on wheels because it it works good. It knocks all the brake dust off. Once you guys get done cleaning it, it does a good job of getting into all those little cracks and stuff that you may have missed with your brush or whatever. So this was a great option to use, but when I was using this, guys, I blew at least 4 of these Central Pneumatic air hose reels and ended up just taking all of them back over to Harbor Freight, and they just warrantied them out for free, and I got brand new ones. So can you use these air hose reels? Yes, but you need to be using 3.5 millimeter tips in order for the seals not to be bursting on this thing all the time, because you will have bad luck with these air hose reel conversions if you guys are not using the correct tips and dropping down that PSI on your guys' pressure washer. So that is the biggest tip that I can give you guys for these systems, is to make sure that you guys are using bigger tips, bigger orifice tips, so that you guys are not blowing the seals on your air hose reel conversion. Now, along with the air hose reel conversion, guys, I would definitely suggest putting a quick release on the hose itself that you guys have on your reel. This way, if you guys have any issues with your hose reel having a seal go out in the middle of a job, you guys can quickly turn off the power to your pressure washer, and then you guys can quickly swap the hose off of the reel and directly onto the pressure washer. That way you can at least get your detail done for the day, because it would suck if you guys had a pressure washer seal go out and now you don't have a way to use your pressure washer, and you have a car sitting halfway foamed or whatever the case is, and you still got to rinse it off. So it is definitely nice to be able to have a reel that you can actually quickly take the hose off in the case of an emergency and actually hook it up straight to your pressure washer. That way you're not getting stuck in the middle of a detail without a hose or without a system that works, because it's blowing water through the seals. But anyways, guys, that is my biggest suggestion for these pressure washer reels, is the quick connects and getting the bigger orificed nozzles for your pressure washer. So I use 3.5 millimeter orifices, and this drastically reduces that PSI well under 1,000 PSI. I can literally... Oh, not on right now. So guys, it's literally soft enough that I can touch this at a couple feet away, no problems. It doesn't at all hurt my hand, and but at the same time, it's still plenty of pressure to get enough of that pressure washing action to help clean a vehicle a little bit more thoroughly than a typical hose without any, I think a regular hose is probably maybe 100 PSI. It's going to be something really, really low. I always have those bigger tips on there so that it lowers the PSI and I get much better flow out of my actual pressure washing wand. And I'm not blowing the seals on the pressure washing reel. Now up next, guys, this is something that I added later on, but that is the on-off shut-off valve on my actual tank. For my tank itself, I actually ended up adding that on-off shut-off valve, and that was really just so I could use the water pressure from the house, and I can bypass the tank so it's not continually filling. Those tanks, a major issue with those square, cheap Amazon tanks is the fact that they blow out. So if you overfill those tanks, they actually start bloating out outwards like this, and depending on how you have your the inside of your rig built, it'll actually start pushing on everything and breaking all the wood and everything inside of your rig, which happened to me a bunch of times when I'm not paying attention, filling this thing up, and then I had to run over to the hose and turn it off, and by then it's like full like a barrel. So yeah, I've definitely ran into a bunch of issues with that. So yeah, that's just something you're gonna have to be aware of, is the cheaper Amazon, especially the 33-gallon tank that I have. It literally fills up like a barrel once it starts getting over full. So make sure that you watch it when you're filling it up. Yeah, I turned it off, right? Ugh. Yeah, we turned it off. We're good. Anyways, guys, make sure that you have an on-off valve. That way you guys can turn on and off the tank when it's done filling. One, if you overfill the tank, it'll start siphoning through that outlet on the top, and the siphoning won't stop until it wants to stop on its own, until there's enough vacuum pressure to get the thing to floop right back out to where it was. But yeah, that's just a huge thing to look out for, guys, is those water tanks. They definitely don't stay in that perfect rectangular shape. When they get like super full of water and they have the pressure on there from the hose, they start to get bloated, and then they'll start pushing all your stuff out inside of your rig. So overall, guys, this has been a great pressure washing setup. There's definitely a couple downsides to a pressure washing setup like this. Specifically with the air hose reel, I had to figure that out, getting it below a certain PSI so that it worked and wasn't blowing seals. Since I got that figured out, I have not blown a single seal yet on this reel. I actually have an extra one sitting up on my shelf up there, but I just haven't had to swap it out. But I do have one sitting on deck. That's how worried I was about blowing these seals. But this one has lasted for about six to 8 months. I changed it out probably back in February. So yeah, like 6 months. So this thing has really been lasting a long time. It's lasted this entire summer season without a single issue. So I think I got it figured out with the bigger orifice tips. But anyways, guys, if you guys have any more questions to ask about this particular pressure washer setup, this tank setup, anything like that, this is the video to do it. I will make sure that I answer all of your guys' questions on pressure washers. But yeah, overall, I've loved my setup so far. I think having the cheaper pressure washer has been great. It's easy to replace. I haven't had to replace it yet, but it would be really easy to replace if I needed a new one. All this stuff in here is easily replaceable and was easy to get. And works good for the type of detailing that I'm doing. So it really has been a great system. And I've heard a lot of you guys using different components in here and whatnot. So seems to be a popular setup. But this would work great if for you guys who want to have a setup similar to this in your home garage. It would be nice to have like a pressure washer reel in your home garage for cleaning up stuff around the house and for cleaning your car. But anyways, this is my setup, guys. You guys could totally adapt this for your own needs, whether you guys have a detailing rig or you guys are detailing out of your home garage and stuff like that. But let me know in the comments down below, what is your guys' current pressure washing setup? Are you mobile like I am and have everything in a rig, or do you guys kind of take everything out and set it up in the driveway and have a pressure washing setup like that? But anyways, guys, that is all that I had for today's video. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.